I am Dr. Ramona Jackson Jones, Chairman of Douglas County Board of Commissioners. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Clearly, our show on DCTV 23 that has the purpose of bringing information to you about county departments, programs, and people. Information is essential.
Good evening. Board of Commissioners, we will move from recess. We were actually in recess, and we will move back into our work session, being that we have a quorum, and we will reconvene this meeting. Our work session, what we will do today for the citizens, as we reconvene our work session from January 16, 2020, we will run concurrent with our commissioner meeting of January 21st, 2020. The meeting will come to order, and we're pleased to have with us this evening Pastor Steve McFall to lead us in our invocation, and after the invocation, please remain standing for the pledge to the flag. Thank you so much, Pastor McFall.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, citizens of Douglasville. I just want to read just a paragraph from one of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous sermons, The Three-Dimensional Complete Life. He preaches, "I say to you this morning that the first question that the priest asked was the first question that I asked on the Jericho Road of Atlanta, known as Simpson Road. The first question that the Levites asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But the Good Samaritan came by and he reversed the question. Not what will happen to me if I stop to help this man, but what will happen to this man if I do not stop to help him? That was why that man was good and great. He was great because he was willing to take a risk for humanity. He was willing to ask, what will happen to this man, not what will happen to me?" And as leaders, that is the question that we all should be asking. Let's pray together. God Almighty, we want to thank you, Lord God, that you have given us this very breath of life to breathe. We want to thank you, God, that you tell us in your word that you have placed every person in authority. We want to thank you, God, that your word teaches us that you give us different abilities, that you give us different places, but that our place is always to be the place of the Good Samaritan. And so, Lord, we pray for our commissioners, for our Madam Chair. Thank you, God, for their service to our county. Would you bless them, Lord God, and would this question always be guiding them? And for the citizens of Douglas County, God, may we emulate this same thing, Lord, by always asking, what will happen if I do not help? We love you, God. Thank you for the wonderful opportunity that we have each and every day, God, to share your love, to share your concern with the people around us, Lord. We love you and bless you. We ask that your hand, God, of protection, of prosperity, and of peace be upon Douglas County and its citizens. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor McFall, thank you for being here this evening, leading us in our invocation, and thank you so much, job well done. And thank you for all the great things that you're doing to lead Central Baptist Church here in Douglas County. And I've visited your church several times, and you all are doing great things, so thank you. Douglas County citizens, welcome and good evening. We value, the Board of Commissioners value and appreciate your voice and your participation in county government. Clerk, you indicated we had two comments this evening. Two citizens signed up. Mr. Larry Pierce, if you could come forward, and your subject matters, tab number 4 and 5. And I need to look at that. Yes, okay. Tab number 4 and 5. Mr. Pierce, before you begin, if you just allow me to just say we appreciate you coming up to speak. You will be allotted 3 minutes, and I have my clerk timing everything, so we'll make sure. So when you hear the buzzer, I ask that you wrap up your thoughts immediately. And also, the subject matter must be germane to the agenda, and it is, because you're going with tab number 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So if you could just restate your name and your address, and you have the floor.
Larry Pierce, 4120 Van Sant Road, Douglasville, Georgia. Well, Madam Chair, there was a lot of people confused about what you just said, and I'm not sure they all understood it. So they do. I'll say it, that it needs to be germane to what's on the subject matter, like a regular meeting. And some of them thought maybe they could say 3 minutes of a subject matter that was not on it.
Yes.
So they've got their answer now. And that confines me to my 3 minutes instead of 15. Okay. I'm not sure what this means, and I'm not sure a lot of us understand what it means, because we thought at the last meeting something was going to be rescinded in regards to that issue about $25,000 that became a racial standoff in regards to Mr. Watkins. So whatever you've got going here on approving and then rescinding, sometimes I don't understand things like this, and maybe some of these people don't either. So maybe there's some more people want to speak on it, but they didn't know for sure what they were going to speak on. When you talk about issues like this, that is money coming in from a certain direction and being divided up in another direction, you know, I don't know that all of us seem to understand all that, but it seems like we get our feathers. Let's see, I forget how that goes. Sometimes you get your feathers in an uproar when it becomes something that was said as it did last time. I don't know how it's ever going to be any better, and I'm a little upset by some of the things that does go on, and I keep coming up in here. And since I can't talk about the other items, I'm getting kind of shortchanged on my thoughts. So all I know is that I made a call to Mr. Gravely in regards to money and how money is spent. And I've got an appointment coming up with him being a state representative, and maybe he can do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pierce. We'll take this matter under advisement. Mr. Aberhalter, is it Ken Aberhalter? Yes. Mr. Aberhalter, if you could just please restate your name and your address, and your subject matter is number 4.
Yes, Kenneth Abhalter, 5076 Chapel Lake Circle. This is item number 4, authorization to approve memorandum of understanding with Douglas County Travel and Tourism, collaborative firm, and authorized chairman to sign all related documents, subject to final legal review. All I want to say is this memorandum of understanding, from what I've seen, is somebody took $400,000 and divided it by 3 and line by line by line just threw stuff on this spreadsheet to spend every penny of that $399,000 as quickly as possible, and put the collaborative firm in charge of it for $50,000 and have them in charge of telling Douglas County Travel and Tourism what to do with the rest of the $350,000. In my opinion, that's my $399,000 that y'all are talking about spending. And all I want is to be able to be confident that my dollars are being allocated and spent in the best manner possible. And to that end, I need more information of what you plan to do with my money. The collaborative firm, who are they? The Douglas County Travel and Tourism Incorporated, who are they? Do they have a history of doing this? Have they ever done this? Have they ever handled money and marketed a county? Have they? I don't know. They're from what I've been able to see, they were just created last month or this month. They're not even a month old, and they're a nonprofit. It's like we got to make a company so that we can give them the money. Is that how it's supposed to work? You just make a company and give them the money? I guess that's it. That's all I got to say at the moment. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Aberhalter, if you could just hang around, and I'm quite sure some of those questions will be answered tonight. Thank you so much. Clerk, that is the end of all the, we only had 2 citizens sign up. Next, Board of Commissioners, Before I proceed with our meeting, as the chair, I want to establish some ground rules in accordance to Robert's Rule of Order. This is our second meeting of the year, and we have started off with a bang. Going forward, together, I want us to work together in unison, professionalism, and civility among this board. Effective immediately, there will be censorship placed around personal attacks on each other. We cannot do that. We are here for the citizens of Douglas County and for the business of Douglas County. There will, again, like I just mentioned, I would like those personal attacks to just not minimize, they need to cease. I request your commitment in engaging in fair debates as this board transact the business of Douglas County. Please, I ask Board of Commissioners tonight if you could limit your discussions to 3 minutes, and then also if you have a rebuttal, I'll allow a 2-minute rebuttal, but you will only have the floor twice, and that's part of Robert's Rule of Order. I had to pull it out and make sure I was certainly astute of how to make sure how many times you could speak, and that's 2. So once you speak, and if you have a rebuttal, you have 1 more time to speak. So the meeting won't just go on and on. At this time, clerk, will you please make sure you have the buzzer set, and we have some things to discuss, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and I hope that I could get consensus tonight, Board of Commissioners, because what we want to do is change the perception of our citizens in terms of us working together as a board, because we are a bit bigger, we're better, and I know we can do this. So I am going to move forward with the start of the meeting. I won't drag it on again. This meeting will run concurrent. What I will do, Board of Commissioners, when I will ask us to approve the minutes, we did discuss those minutes in our work session, but when we get to the business items, we will discuss each business item, which is tab number 4 through tab number 17 again. And we haven't approved the expenses either. And then I'll come back, and then it'll be a Board of Commissioners meeting. That means that then we'll vote. So that'll allow us to just discuss each item, and that's part of our work session, and then we'll close out, and then we'll come back with the business items, okay? And each one would be separately, and then you will vote separately. Board of Commissioners, if you could take a look at your minutes, I hope you all had an opportunity to look at those minutes. Board of Commissioners, you have the minute meetings of the commission meeting January 7th, 2020, work session minutes of January 6, 2020, and the executive session minutes of January 6, 2020. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions that need to be made? Okay. Being none, the minutes stand approved as presented. Now we'll move right on into our business items for discussion. Tab number 4, and now we're in work session mode, Board of Commissioners, so this is discussion only. We have tab number 4, authorization to approve a memorandum of understanding with Douglas County Travel and Tourism Incorporation and the collaborative firm LLC, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Mark Teal, would you please lead that? Oh, I didn't see the presentation. Board of Commissioners, forgive me, my eyes missed the presentation portion. Please forgive me. We have an introduction of Atlas by Moreland Altobelli, Terry Gable. If you could please come forward. So, Mr. Buddy.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. First of all, let me thank you for giving us this opportunity. We've been with you all for 3 years. We started off as Moreland HDR team to help you with the SPLOSH program. As you're aware, our name has changed to Atlas effective January 1st, 2020. And I kind of want to just give you a brief history of what transpired to get us to Atlas, if you don't mind. If I can. Sorry. Okay, well, obviously I wanted to do it the hard way. All right, just so real quick, Mr. Moreland, as you know, ex-commissioner of Georgia DOT, retired in 1987, started in Moreland Altobelli. After about 30 years, he decided to hang it up and retire and sold to Jim Bernhardt. Mr. Bernhardt started a company called Shaw Enterprises back in the 70s and grew it into a company that he sold to Chicago Bridge and Iron for $3 billion. He was semi-retired, decided he wanted to get into the infrastructure business, and started a investment group which started Atlas at the time. So originally there are six companies right now part of Atlas, and I'll go through the steps on how they were acquired. All of them are focused on program management, CEI, construction engineering inspection, material testing, and design as well. So if you look at the chart, what you'll see is there are three companies that initially acquired. First one was a company called CEL in California. They're really strong on the vertical component for program management material testing. They do Google, Amazon. They had also oversaw the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco. If you've been out there, it's a pretty impressive building. The next company acquired was Tom Moreland. Mr. Moreland had been discussed when it was Shaw with Mr. Bernhardt back in the early 2000s and decided to keep on moving. As discussed, he decided he wanted to retire. So on November 1st, 2017, we actually asked the board to change our name from Moreland Altobelli Inc. to Moreland Altobelli LLC. And then the next company hired was Pavetex, or in Texas. So all told, there were about 1,200 people in that firm. And since then, 3 other firms have been acquired. One in California, Piedmont Engineering, or Geotech. They're also here in Atlanta. And a company called ATC. They're about 1,200. All told, CEL, multiple companies. The map here shows you the locations they're at. Mostly West Coast, focusing on, again, vertical CEI material testing, specialized testing. For those that remember the Northwest Corridor when the wall fell, and there was a big publicity, we're actually doing the construction specs and material testing for that project. We actually were able to call CEL the moment it happened and ask what we needed to do to protect the material so a forensics could be done. And they gave us the steps, and that's what was utilized to help DOT determine what the cause of the incident was. Again, Moreland Altobelli, you guys know us very well. We're roughly 380 individuals, mostly in Georgia, small office in Chattanooga, Savannah, and other locations. Pretty much turnkey for horizontal, some vertical, some program management, and some materials and parks as well. Pavetex, company in Texas, focused on material testing, but they do a lot of CEI and material testing works for Texas DOT. Going through them, these were quick. Piedmont, one shop, 50 individuals, mostly material testing. And then SCST, another specialized company in South California, San Diego area. And then all told, and then ATC Group, which was already spread out. They do mostly environmental. So right now, if you looked at Moreland Altobelli holistically, we're 3,200 people, 100 offices in 40 states. We used to talk about an MA before we became Atlas. We were basically from concept to ribbon cutting opening. Well, the way we are right now, we're basically concept to closure, meaning ATC brought in the environmental process that if you want to close a site down, demolish a building, remove asbestos, that's really what they focus on. So it's a unique platform, and we're growing every day. We're looking at other firms, but mainly focusing on infrastructure, both for horizontal and vertical, for, again, design, CEI, construction inspection, material testing, and program management. Going through the history real quick, we were acquired again in 2017, November. First 2 things that we did would hire a communications director, Carlene Barron, who many of you have met before, and then Todd Long, also a deputy commissioner at GDOT and the COO of Fulton County for 3 years. He's been with us since July of 18. So to kind of convert over from Moreland Altobelli to an Atlas, it was a strategic move. Obviously, if you have investors involved, you can't flip your name in one day. They want to be able to show a gradual change. So in July 1st, 2018, we actually updated our logo to the Moreland Altobelli with the swoosh, an Atlas company. Started letting people know that we're changing at ACCG, GMA conferences, and other conferences. We rebranded and started showing that transitional logo. Emails were updated as well. This is just some of the information that was presented during that time period. Actually, the top right, the presentation that I think Terry gave at one time recently and showed the MA. Also, submittal that we submitted, and then basically below kind of a information pack of the information that we do for Moreland Altobelli Atlas, now Atlas. ACCG events started showing our co-branding And what we're trying to do, that was back in last May. How much time flies when you're having fun. So co-branding efforts started July 1st to transition all the way to Atlas. We started providing people updates on our emails that we're going to go to Atlas January 1st. We started co-branding our fleet. We made an announcement for clients. We hand out Christmas cards and Christmas tins with candy, and then communication related to your finance department, your engineering department, your contracts, county administrator department. So we started letting people know 6 months out that this was coming. Again, events, the first event on the top right, there was a conference called SASHTO in Savannah, where that was the first time we showed the co-branding teams of part of Atlas in the Southeast, which showed ATC and Pavetex. And then here's the timeline what we've done the last 4 months as far as notifying clients through our contracts and what need to be changed. A lot of things had to be done behind the scenes as far as new federal ID numbers because of the name change. We had to go through that process, new bank accounts. So all that was trying to be coordinated while we're also coordinating with all our clients and the project controls and contracting people of county, cities, and private clients. So again, starting January 1st, you'll start seeing our rebranding totally of Atlas, much like you saw the beginning slide. Just like you see there, we bought some new trucks that went down to Savannah area for our CEI for DOT. And just open it up for questions. And first, I want to apologize for my phone being on, so. Anyway.
Oh, didn't hear it at all. Board of Commissioners, at this time, I will allow you all to ask questions. Any questions or comments from the Board of Commissioners? Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, I've got a couple
Yes, sir.
questions, 2 questions. First is just take them in reverse. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Again, for the citizens, we welcome the partnership of Atlas now, which was Moreland Altobelli and Herman J. Russell as our program manager of our SPLOS. So these are the guys that are responsible for ensuring that those services are delivered. Those tax dollars, that extra penny SPLOS, they're responsible for delivering it, overseeing it on behalf of the Board of Commissioners. We can only ask our staff to do so much. The staff is good at delivering services, but as far as creation of overseeing buildings going up, verticals, and overseeing horizontals, these guys, we paid them 4 pennies on a dollar, $4 million to come in here and oversee our $100 million SPLOS. And so we appreciate you being here to give assurance to us on that. All right, that being said, let's move on. I got to keep going. All right, that being said, County Attorney, are you paying attention? I got a question.
I don't want to lie to you. I have my head down.
See, there we go. Okay, we're good. All right, so a simple question is, because of the name changes, which is fine, all I want to know is that, is there any impact to the Board of Commissioners' expectations regarding our program management relationship with them with this change? Have you checked into that? When their rates go up, when they do different things, are we good?
We've not been asked to review a change as far as, what I understood is they assumed the entity Morton Albelli, which means they assumed the contractual obligations with the county. I think this is a reaffirmation of who they are because the Board of Commissioners wanted to know who they were doing business with. I would have to check with the programming folks and Mark whether or not another contract is needed.
I just want confirmation. You don't have to solve it today. All right, we're good. We're good. And then I yield. I'm good. Thank you. I just more concerned about the contract itself, but I've spoken. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield the floor.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? We good? Okay. Commissioner Mitchell, you have the floor.
Yes, thanks. So I just, for clarity, I guess, so what, if any, and I think we've asked this question before, if any, what effect with this new name change would it have on those of us here in Douglas County and all the projects and things that you deal with us? So,
Well, first of all, the contract, as far as the commitment that's made in that contract, it's not going to change. And I know your attorney's going to look at it. The rates are going to stay the same.
Right.
The people are staying the same. Nothing's changed. The only thing I'll say that changed in the Moreland Altobelli is Mr. Moreland is retired, and he should. He's 87 years old.
Right.
And Vicki Moreland became the treasurer of Atlas, so so she got a bigger role.
Right.
As far as everybody else is still here. Now, what we've been able to do is we're drawing from expertise we never had before. Much like I referenced the Northwest Corridor wall failure, we've got resources that we never had access to before that can help us in other endeavors. I mean, just to give you just a couple quick examples, you know, we put in for a project with a big team to do work in Baton Rouge. Moreland Altobelli would have never gone after that because we weren't big enough, but it has provided that opportunity. It also has provided a better and stable workforce for Moreland Altobelli Atlas because we are a bigger company. They're getting better benefits. They're getting better health care, better 401k at a reduced rate because we are bigger. So that's a huge benefit.
Right, right. So we won't receive anything, it won't be less than.
Oh,
If
absolutely
anything,
not.
it'll be.
No, sir, Commissioner
We're in a
Mitchell.
better position, I guess.
Correct.
Would say. And speaking of legal, so I guess legal will just take a look at it to make sure there are no hiccups in this whole change in the name itself.
Based on the presentation of material, they're assuming the contractual position of Moreland Altobelli, so they can't unilaterally make changes to the contract without this board's approval
Right.
unless they're already in the base contract of the original agreement. There may be some reasons to amend it later, but if we amend it, the smorgasbord is on the table for negotiations. But I understand from the presentation, they just took the position, they consume Moreland Altobelli, so they're behind the contract rights of Moreland Altobelli. So the county's position is unchanged with respect to the contract. Moreland Altobelli's just got a new name now.
Right, that's what I thought. I just want to share that with the public so the public will kind of get a true understanding of what this really is. Because it kind of, you're not always absolutely sure with the name change and what adjustments will come on any projects that you've got, that you guys have got your hands in. So, but from my understanding, there are none.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, I yield back.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. Any other discussion or questions for Mr. Buddy? Mr. Buddy, what is your last name for the record? I'm so sorry.
Gratton, Gratton.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Madam
so
Chair.
much. Great presentation. And thank you for just enlightening the Board of Commissioners about this name change. Board of Commissioners, we will pivot back to tab number 4 under business items. Again, this is our work session mode. Authorization to approve a memorandum of understanding with Douglas County Travel and Tourism Incorporation and the collaborative firm LLC, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. And our county administrator, would you
Yes, ma'am.
take over? And
So the Douglas County Travel and Tourism Incorporated was set up by the Board of Commissioners in, I think, May of 2019. It is comprised of, as far as the Board of Directors, it's comprised of 7 voting members. 3 of the 7 members are the chairman of the Board of Commissioners, the county administrator for Douglas County, and the Douglas County Finance Director. The other 4 additional members would ultimately be selected by the Board of Commissioners. And then Douglas County Travel and Tourism would be the designated marketing association for, organization for the tourism portion of the hotel motel tax. And then we're in the process of establishing 501c6 status for that same organization to comply with state law. That DCTT, which is Douglas County Travel and Tourism, would be run by Ms. Colleen Cash and the Tourism Department under the direction of the Board of Directors of this entity. So what we have on the agenda, and it's a sort of a 2-part memorandum of understanding between the Board of Commissioners, the DCTT, which is Douglas County Travel and Tourism, and the collaborative firm. So one portion of that is, so the hotel motel tax, the tourism convention and trade show portion from 2015 through 2018 that was left over. So that's $399,716.94. So that would be working with the collaborative firm to come up with a plan for spending these funds. And we were directed by DCA to spend these funds immediately. And the Douglas County Travel and Tourism would make sure that whatever the collaborative firm came up with as far as, and we have options on a sheet that's included in your packet, Commissioners and Madam Chair, for the 3 pillars, which would be African American history and culture, food, drink, and Georgia grown, and Iconic, Georgia. So DCTT would make sure that we are in compliance with state law and DCA on these. Also included in this MOU is the 2020 funds for TCT, which is the tourism funds. That's a total, it's estimated to be $323,315, which would be paid on a monthly basis based on the items in Exhibit B. A lot of this would change because one of the first items they have proposed is essentially a study to determine where these funds need to be spent, and then that would go to the Board of Directors of the DCTT. And in addition to this, we should be finalizing 2019, the TCT funds of the hotel motel tax sometime within the next month or so. So if there's any excess funds from that, we need to go ahead and spend those as well. So that's essentially what the contract or the MOU states.
Any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Any comments? Questions? I'm trying to see who raised their hand first. Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
All right, I'll take it. All right, I've got to give a little context. This is the work session part, right?
Yeah, you're in the
All
work
right, work
session.
session, all right, so I get to clarify this. And this is for the public, all right? This, give me a little room, just to bring clarity. And I appreciate everyone being here, especially District 2. When this started back in July, and this is important, I'm in my office. Madam Carthen comes in my office and asks a simple question. After reviewing the marketing plan associated with our, at that time, tourism group. Have you looked at this marketing plan that they've done so far, what they're submitted that you asked for last month? I said, well, I'm looking at this other stuff, but what's on your mind? And it's like, well, can we change this? Can we change? I'm like, absolutely you can change it. So I gave, as being the senior statesman, how to legislatively get stuff done. No agenda, no objective. Yes, we can change. Right? If you got a marketing plan, any elements within there can be changed. Right? You're asking for our approval. We're not up or down. If we don't like something, what we do? We check and we balance. Right? Just give you a little education on this. So thus began the process. Now, recognizing in parallel, we were working on what's called a disadvantaged business enterprise ordinance that's running concurrent. It's the acknowledgement that African-American firms, minority firms, disabled firms, all these firms that were pretty much from a federal level had not been acknowledged, who had been disadvantaged, was important that we do that here in Douglas County, right? That's running in parallel, right? So you got tourism and you got this. And we're operating in multiple levels at the same time, right? So here we are looking at tourism, and in looking at that, we realized that, and again, I got to speak because we got to get on time. We looked at it, and based on some reports, some information we received from Madam Carthen from the ACCG, that Douglas County was third from the bottom, and I appreciate the gentleman's commentary, about third from the bottom in efficiency in the 13 metro counties. That's on our current use of tax dollars. Time. Now, Director Hallman, is Director Hallman here?
She's here.
Director Hallman, I need you. I need some facts, please. And this is for the public, just my question won't be long. I got to give context. Director Hallman. Welcome.
Yes, sir.
You ready?
Yes.
All right. Can you give, for the public's sake, this is no grilling, just straight facts, how much money have we spent in this portion? Well, back up for a minute. For hotel motel tax period, 'cause a lot of times I hear people say, my money, right? Hotel motel tax is associated with the commercial aspect of owners in the county. Those hotels that we go there, they generate taxes, right? And there's a state law, and I appreciate talking to the regulators, but they pretty much, the state judged us on using that money accordingly. Now, here's my question. How much money are we supposed to spend per each of the buckets, just for the public?
Sure.
hotel, motel.
Okay, TCT, which is tourism, conventions, and trade shows, is 43.75%. TPD, which is tourism product development, is 18.75%. And then there's unrestricted amount, which is 37.5%.
All right. So the 18% amount, that's like 18% of a dollar or a penny or whatever you want to do it right, the tax. Who's in that bucket right now?
The TPD
Yes.
of 18.75%, the museum,
So this
the Cultural Arts
museum-
Council,
Museum, what museum? Talk for the public.
the Douglas County Museum that's downtown Douglasville.
All right. They
The-
get money, okay?
The Cultural Arts Council,
Yes.
and then the county is allowed to keep some of that money, and one of the projects that we're currently working on is the gateways within the county. That's where that money's going to go to.
Okay. How much money does the chamber get annually? Let's just be specific.
Okay, the chamber gets the TCT money,
All right.
which is the 43.75%. They get 25% of the 43.75.
Yep.
And just to kind of give you an idea, based on the 2020's budget of receiving 1.4 million, or estimating receiving 1.4 million in hotel motel taxes, the chamber, based on that percentage, would receive $153,125.
Okay. All right, so the chamber gets 143 to be used however it's accordingly. The museum gets how much?
The museum actually has, they get the TPD,
Yep.
and their contract is actually capped up to $130,000.
130,000, all right. How much the cultural arts get?
They're also contract capped at $57,240.
$57,230. And then tourism, roughly annual budget is what?
Roughly $460, but that does include salary and benefits.
That includes salary and benefits, so they get the lion's share. Right, all right. And unrestricted, how much money goes into that bucket?
$525,000.
Okay. So, and what do we use that money for?
That goes into the uninked fund. So that is exactly what the title is, unrestricted. So we use that for any uninked fund, things that we need done, or in the past couple of years, we've actually used it to help offset some of the general fund cost for some healthcare items and things such as that.
All right, now pay attention. Our job as Board of Commissioners, again, the four of us as district commissioners are, again, like Congress and General Assembly at the local level. We come in here every now and then and we're to check and balance the administration. So listen to this. So if you're a hotel owner and you're expecting that this money is being taxed, that it's being spent accordingly to put what we call heads in beds, right? It allows us to freely market Douglas County, right? However we really wanted to. Prior to 2019, when they came and gave us guidance regarding pillars, you pretty much can do it however you want to. But if you think about what you just added up, like half the money that's actually generated, we're using to fund our general fund. Huh. Stay with me. To make shortcomings, right? The other part is like, it's like we're capping it amongst these little agencies, and it's like, okay, look at the spend. Stay with me. Look at the spend, right? So I'm looking at this, so as an oversight, we're oversight. I know, but I'm just oversight. So my question became simply, well, where's the money? And how are we using it to date? So if they ranked us third from the bottom in inefficiency, our job is to come in and take corrective action. Let's bring in some advisors in here to try to make this better. We've had a 5-year run. First point. Second point is the current process that we did was illegal. We're not supposed to be running it through the Development Authority, as it's been since 2015. It's supposed to go through a 501c6. When we created the current structure, that was back in 15, pre-Madam Chair. So here we are as an oversight that says, first, the process you currently got in place is illegal. Two, you're not doing a very good job in using the money. And then thirdly, you have an excess in $400,000 that you accumulated. We're not doing a good job with the money we're using. You're in excess of the money that is accumulating. And then the current structure, you got illegal. So we spent 4 months trying to work through this with staff from oversight. We're not to do. Our job is to oversight during that period of time. We head to the end of the year, Granted, our staff did come before us in May trying to work this process. But legally, we got caught up, and we got to this place. When we head into the end of the year, because the state gave us the notice a year before. Y'all are non-compliant. You're not the only county. You're non-compliant. Listen, our job is oversight. When we get those notices, it's to what now? You're non-compliant in using the money. You got to the end of year, 12/31/19, to get this done. All right, so we went round and round and round and round and round for 2 or 3 months. And it's unfortunate, public, that it got to the place. It's unfortunate. Our job is to correct, right? Now, how we go about doing it is it's left, right. Doesn't matter. But the Board of Commissioners had made a decision on the direction they wanted to go that involved doing both. Like, okay, we'll work with you, but we're not going to do it that way. So I'm going to leave you with just that backstory without any questions. I'll yield. But you needed to know that. Whatever you thought this was, you missed it. Take the propaganda out of the way. Our job is to correct and to give guidance. And that's all we were really trying to do. Now, our approach is our approach. How we lean is how we lean. But that was no more than that. How would you think those hotel owners feel that, wait a minute, you're not using the money that you're taxing me on? You made it more for my people who come into the rooms? You guys, if you were actually looking at us and holding us accountable, well, why'd y'all just let that go? That's important in defense of all my peers of why we're here that says, no, we needed to take some corrective action. Y'all needed to hear that because I don't want you to have to go back through 4 months worth of videos to see all the dialogue we had to tell you just that. It was just corrective action. I yield, no question, Madam Chair. Thank you for that, just for the team. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for yielding.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Any other comment? Commissioner Carthen, did you have one? I'm sorry. Then I could be next.
While you're there, Director Holloman, can you tell me how much money we have spent in tourism for the past 5 years?
Total?
Total.
Okay. In 2015, I'll just round everything, we had $490,000 in hotel motel taxes. We have seen substantial growth because of the new hotels coming out of the unincorporated area of the county. So in 2015, it was $490,000. 2016 was $560,000. 2017 was $687,000. 2018 was $1,040,000. And 2019 is estimated, like County Administrator said, we're still working on accruing all the books and everything, but it's estimated to be just over $1.3 million.
So we would say, just a round number, about $4.5 million.
Yes, about $4 million.
$4.5 million for tourism. So when I have people who are sitting in my office asking, why don't we have cultural events, and why do they have to go to other counties or cities to have events, we might want to take a look at why where we're spending the dollars and how we're advertising Douglas County. Although we might not have a lot of assets to come see, we can curate events within the county so that everybody can partake of it. I just wanted to ensure that everyone knew the dollars amount.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much
You're
for your
welcome.
help. With that, Madam Chair, you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen. Commissioner Guider,
Yes.
you have the floor.
Colin here. Could you come up, please? Colin, if you would tell the people who you are.
My name is Colin Cash, and I am the Director of Tourism and the Film Office for Douglas County.
When did you receive notice from the state about the pillars?
They introduced the pillars the second half of 2018, I believe, at our annual tourism conference. And those were to be used for categories for marketing and, to say, okay, these are our general areas that we're going to focus our marketing on.
Did you make any corrective action? Did you take any corrective action at that time to branch out into those?
At that time, I was a one-person office, and the majority of my time was being taken up with the film
Filming.
office, with the old jail. So I really only had time to focus on 2 of the pillars, which was with film, obviously, because we had the film trail, and then the outdoor recreation. And the reason I chose those 2 things is because there was something already there. I didn't have to create or really hunt for something. It was kind of already there. And so that was why I just focused on those 2 pillars.
Okay, and the avenues or paths you were taking at the time, they went out to all people. The Chamber of Commerce, which is any and everybody that belongs to it, any business, right?
Yes, ma'am. We actually partnered to launch the film trail. We partnered with the City Office of Tourism, with the Development Authority, and when I first started in 17, the Development Authority still was running the film office. So we went in together, the 4 of us, and we got a grant, and we worked and we put together the film trail. And then those brochures are out everywhere. They're of the state.
But during the year 2019, you were coming to the Board of Commissioners telling us that we needed to have a 501c6
Yes,
rather
ma'am.
than a 501c3.
Right.
And so we were in the process of forming one.
Yes, ma'am.
At first, we were going to operate up under the existing Chamber of Commerce, I think. And we decided, no, that wasn't the avenue we needed to take. We needed to form our own. So that's why this is a newly formed
Yes, ma'am.
entity. So, but you had a plan laid out to correct anything that was considered not fair, I guess.
Yes, ma'am. I was instructed by County Manager Mark Teal to go back and redo my budget and concentrate on all of the pillars. And so I moved the money around to make sure that we were putting money into the other pillars that we had not worked on in the past.
And we had extra money because we went from a 5% to 8%.
Yes, ma'am. We've been
Yes.
8% since 2015.
15?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
but it really started coming in 2016, I guess, mostly. But you had a plan all laid out, and then there was the group that Commissioner Carthen was wanting to extend the $25,000 to. Did they submit a scope of work for what they were going to do for that?
No, ma'am. We had a meeting, informal meeting with them, and I just asked where they were planning on doing their advertising and things like that, and they said they didn't have a plan, but they would send it. I just wanted to see what the scope of work, because in the conversation, it sounded like they were wanting to just promote businesses, and I said, well, I would like to see what your plan is to make sure that it is tourism. And we reached out to them via email twice and asked for a proposal and did not receive one.
So we didn't know what they would do for $25,000.
No, ma'am.
So I think that was the big deal as far as I was concerned. When this was passed at the last meeting of December, we didn't know who Empower Douglas was. So as it's set up now, we're going to have our own 501c6, and it's going to be board members here represented by the county staff and citizens, and then they will oversee the collaborative firm. And I don't exactly understand what the collaborative firm, they never submitted a scope of work, did they?
Not yet that I have seen.
But we already had one in place, so I didn't understand why were we going through another LLC to get to where we wanted to go. So it just seems like we kind of piled on there for a minute. So, but with this on the agenda tonight, the LLC of the collaborative firm is going to work under the umbrella of y'all, or the LLC that we're setting up, or the 501c6 that we're setting up, right?
That was the way that it was explained to me. Yes, ma'am.
So here the county is, and then here's an LLC, and then there's this group, a newly formed 501c3 that gets the 25,000.
I'm unclear
Is
about that.
Is that right, Mark?
So the collaborative firm would be up to $50,000. And as far as the scope of work, that has not been decided yet because we haven't had, first we
So
would have
we're
to get this
contracting with
approved.
somebody that has not submitted a scope of work. And then under them, the 25,000 for this group, the Empire Douglas, have they submitted a scope of work?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
When did they do that?
Approximately 2 weeks ago.
Okay. But, so that's what this organization chart is going to look like. Is that true? Did I explain it right? We've got.
Yeah, so the MOU would be between Douglas County and the collaborative firm and the Douglas County Travel and Tourism Incorporated.
But
which
the
is
collaborative
pending
firm is going to give
501c6 status, as I
25,000
stated.
to the Empire Douglas. Is that right?
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
The collaborative firm is going to contract or have a MOU, I guess, with the Empire Douglas for 25,000. Is that right?
Yes, that is listed as one of the projects under African American History and Culture. And the proposal for the project list for Douglas County Travel and Tourism.
So we've got $75,000. Now, tourism, motel, hotel tax must be spent on tourism, right?
Yes, ma'am. The certain percentages that Jennifer Hallman was explaining, that certain percentage must go to that. And that's, we don't have all the hotels. Obviously, some are in the city. So we only have 9 hotels that are in the county that we get the money from.
But 75,000 of it is going to pay these 2 other entities to do the work that y'all are set up to do. I already have the scope of work. I yield back.
Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And before you leave,
Yes, ma'am.
Colin, any questions, any other questions or concerns? Wait a minute, I have Commissioner Carthen. Commissioner Carthen?
Hi, Colin.
Hi.
So the meeting that we had with you, the informal meeting that we
Yes,
had
ma'am.
with you and Dr. Watkins and the Sarah Ray,
Yes, ma'am.
Sarah Ray and the county administrator and your assistant.
Yes, ma'am. Ebony Hammonds.
Ebony. When we had that informal meeting, some of the dialogue that we had, I remember when I brought up the pillars was that you weren't too aware of some of the things that we could promote in Douglas County in regards to African American tourism. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So when we did the informal meeting, it was more of a, hey, I want you to know who can help you with that. And there was some pushback. And so when we came out of the meeting, the individuals that were in there, Dr. Watkins and can't remember the other one's name, stated maybe
Terry McGahee.
Terry,
Yes, ma'am.
that maybe they shouldn't be the ones working. And it was a little tense. And so it kind of caused me, and I will put it on me, it kind of caused me to pull back. So the last conversation we had was they were supposed to send in scope of work to Mark, and I told them to wait because they were a little apprehensive in working with you. And that was, I'm trying to protect you because you're a staff member, but I'm also trying to protect them because they're constituents and they're business owners.
Right.
And so to watch how everything unfolded, and especially last Thursday, really grieved my spirit because I never intended for all of this to be put upon a business or a constituent or a staff member. Never thought it would get to this point. And so when I had a fellow colleague sitting up here hurling personal assaults to a business owner and a voting member and a constituent of Douglas County, I was grieved because I would never do that. I'm professional enough to know that you don't use this dais as a place where you would insult anyone who comes before you with personal attacks. But I thank you for your professionalism. I thank you for getting up and explaining it last Thursday, and hopefully everybody heard you.
Thank you.
And hopefully they didn't think you or I were making up these pillars.
No, ma'am.
And that we can honestly allow for the economic development of tourism to thrive in Douglas County.
Yes, ma'am. And we've started doing research and trying to put together, in the interim with all this going on, trying to put together a program and find us at much. We did an extensive research project on everything that was at the Douglas County Museum of History and Art already related to African American history. So as soon as we had our meeting and it became obvious that I was unaware of a lot of this, then we went back and immediately started. And I apologize again if it came back as pushback. It was just I needed information. I was unaware of what we had. So
Not a problem. I think, although it turned out to be something negative, to me, it also turned into something positive because it allowed us to regroup and
Yes, ma'am.
refocus and actually get in compliance. So even though those things happened, I'm glad we actually went through it.
thank you.
Thank you. With that, Madam Chair, I yield.
Yep, I have my.
Okay, I was just trying to make sure Commissioner Mitchell didn't have anything. Okay.
All right, real quick, and
Vice Chairman Robinson, you
thank
have
you,
the
Madam Chair.
floor.
Yeah, I'll be quick. And again, follow the math. I'm going to go back to the money. Return on investment, return on taxation. All right, so if we're saying there's two buckets of money, Publix. There's the annual budget, which is, let's just say it's $350 for easy math. And then there's that one-time accumulation of $400,000 that was supposed to have been spent by 12/31. So if, in fact, I'm spending roughly, I don't know, let's just say for the sake of the conversation, for salary all in is $150 for the tourism department. So I'm spending $150 to move $350,000. Follow the math. I'm spending $150 to move $350. I've got another $400 that I'm going to spend $75 to move. I believe in competition. I want to see how it's going to play out. Right? Again, we're trying to, the intent is I've got to look those hotel owners in the face along that Thornton corridor, which I tend to do all the time. I go over to spend time with them and hang out and have some of my town halls there. And again, that's important to them, right? You're taxing them and they're wanting, they've got occupancy rates and things like that. Stay with me. We're oversight, right? So to her point, she for the $350 she's got, she's like, I'm one man, I've got a small department. It's like, I can't be all over state. Her whole approach was like, okay, we get it. We're going to get you some help. Just like with our finance department, we brought in David Corbin and group to bring in an African-American firm to bring expertise, right? And so, again, we've turned sideways, which was unfortunate. All this, it was very bad, very bad. It was unfortunate. But I say that, look at the return on money, 2 buckets of money. I think what we have here before us is perhaps a good compromise of going forward, but the Board of Commissioners made its decision, right? It made its decision on where we wanted to go, and now this is just a cleanup process. So to Mr. Pierce, my constituent, this is just to clean it all up, just to get us all on the same page, as Madam Carthen said. This is nothing new, but this is just sort of the accumulation of about 5 months' worth of work that perhaps we can get through the moment and move on with our agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Vice Chairman Robinson. Commissioner Mitchell, you have the floor.
Just so we won't prolong this, because I think this has just been going on and on and on. But Jennifer, if you would please, and stay with me, Kyle.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. While Jennifer's making her way, though, explain the pillars again, so we can clearly understand the pillars.
The state of Georgia does marketing.
Correct.
And every year they have a different focus. One year it was the year of Georgia film. One year it was the year of Georgia music. And so in 2018, instead of focusing on one year, they decided to come up with these 5 pillars. They were never intended to be moderated or to make sure that everybody did it. They were just the pillars that they were going to use to say, okay, for our social media, these are the 5 things that we're going to focus on and just to put. So they were really supposed to be guidelines, and there was no, like with DCA, you have to be in compliance. With the pillars, it was nothing like that. It was just like, hey, this is how the state's going to do their marketing.
So the state came up with the 5 pillars.
Correct.
And one of which the pillars were an African-American pillar.
African-American heritage and cultural,
Correct.
which I took to mean promoting things like the Martin Luther King home and the things like that. And I just thought, well, we don't really have anything. Like, we don't have any statues. We don't have any.
I'm not trying to get you to defend it. I'm only just.
Okay.
I'm not trying to get you to
Sorry.
defend it. I'm only saying that's where that came from.
Yes, sir. It came from the state.
Okay.
Georgia Department of Economic Development, the Tourism Division.
That's correct.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
correct. Yeah. So I'm not trying to get you to defend it.
Okay.
I'm only just trying to express for those of us who are trying to understand how this all kind of evolved and where we are today based on not something that was made up by this board or even the committee, but it was something that was vetted by the state.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to just verify, because I think it's been misconstrued as though it's something that we as a board has came up with a black thing or something black, and I don't think that was not the intent.
No, sir.
Okay.
It was just one of the 5 pillars from the state.
Correct. And again, so you did hit the 5 pillars that we just spoke about. I heard 3, but I'm not sure if I heard.
Okay, so African American heritage and cultural, Georgia grown and agricultural, music and film, outdoor recreation, and then iconic Georgia places, which can be pretty much anything you can fit
Very
into
broad.
that
Yeah,
one.
very broad. And you chose as the director of using the hotel motel tax as to how you decided to approach each pillar and or each or not even approaching a pillar, correct?
Right.
That was your choice. Or that was your directive as to how you moved into
Yes, sir.
in whichever pillar you, and again, I'm not looking for a defense,
Sure.
just trying to understand
Right.
kind of how we got here.
Correct. Because when I first got here, I was like, well, wow, what, and we had a very small budget the first year, so I'm like, well, what can I do that's kind of already here instead of creating
Correct.
the wheel? And so I chose the film trail first off.
Correct.
And then after
Because it
we,
was heavy in the film.
right, and then after we
Correct.
had that group come in, the name escapes me, but Young Game Changers,
Mm-hmm.
they came up with this whole thing it was Explore Douglas, but we took it, made it naturally Douglas, and took all their research and kind of ran with that outdoor recreation. So those were the 2 things that were obvious
Right.
and were easily done.
And the hydrangea, what did that fall in one of these pillars?
And the what, hydrangea?
Yeah.
In the naturally, it can fall under the naturally Douglas for outdoor recreation.
Where did it fall under how you orchestrated, how you laid out the
I did it
plan?
under the Naturally Douglas. I put the Butterfly Trail and the Hydrangea Festival under Naturally Douglas. Going forward, the Hydrangea Festival could kind of go under the Georgia Grown and Agricultural pillar because obviously,
Right. That's okay.
yeah.
That's okay. And as I'll ask that Jennifer come forth, you were not clear as to where we were all doing this correct or incorrect. Only thing you knew is the pillars exist. We had 8% on a hotel motel tax, and how the buckets are structured, you had no clue that a 501c6 was needed to maneuver hotel motel tax, other than the funds came your way to your department and you dispersed the funds?
No, sir, I've done that.
Oh, you've
along.
known that, okay, okay,
Yes, sir.
all right, okay. But however, not being a 501c6 is kind of interesting enough to where we are, even at this juncture, to say, were we in compliance, which we were, or are we not?
We were not 100% in compliance.
Okay. So, I mean, so, and again, so if I can get Jennifer to kind of help explain the TCT, TPD, and unassigned, and that whole makeup, and we'll just call them buckets because that's what we're used to, and you can stay around with the column. But so we can kind of clearly understand that makeup and why we're now, as I conclude with my thought process.
Okay, so you want the percentages? or
Sure,
how-
we can explain them again, that's
Okay.
fine.
The TCT, which is trade shows, conventions, and tourism, is 43.75. And for us, Douglas County, the chamber receives the TCT, a portion of the TCT.
Right.
And then the tourism department receives a portion of that.
Correct.
Then the TPD, which is tourism product development, is 18.75. And the museum, which is the downtown museum, Douglas County Museum, receives a portion of that. The Cultural Arts Council receives a portion of that.
Correct.
And then the county's allowed to keep that, keep some of that as well. And one of the projects, as I had mentioned, was the Gateway projects that we have going on now. And then 37.5% is unrestricted, and it goes into the unincorporated special district fund.
So is that correct, though? I mean, I know that's what we did, but is that correct as to whether funds should be, I guess, in that bucket, I guess I'll call
The
it?
percentages are correct. I think where the non-compliance was two things.
Well, that's what I'm alluding to, yes.
The non-compliance, I believe, was two things, was that the TCT money, the 43.75, has to run through a 501c6. Of course, the chamber is a 501c6.
Correct.
And then the one that we're trying to create is correcting the tourism money that currently just goes to run routes right now, or back in 2019, to the Development Authority.
Got it.
As well as having the overage from 15 all the way to 18. We needed to go ahead and spend that money and not accumulate it unless there's a plan of action. Like the gateways are a good example. That's not something that you can just do overnight. So if you have a plan of action that, hey, we have $100 and something thousand and we're going to do X, Y, Z with it. We're working on RFQs, we're getting bids. You know, if you show a plan, then it's okay. You just can't have it just sitting there doing nothing.
So the UNIC funds of about 525, is that correct in its placement, or is that incorrect, being non-501c6, or are we in compliance?
Yes, the only money that has to route through a 501c6
TC
is the TCT.
The TCT, so, okay, got it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, outside of that, I think that's all I have, and thank you guys, and I appreciate it. And I truly hate that we got to this point, but sometimes this is kind of good to kind of make sure we understand what we all are doing and what the direction of this board would like to see. That doesn't make it bad in the event that we don't see eye to eye. Sometimes that's good conversation and good dialogue. But in some cases, it's one of those great thought process to at least assure that not only that we're in compliance, but the direction of this board and kind of where we see our hotel motel dollars being spent, and is it in the direction of this board and the majority of this board versus what we think. It's got to be what this collaborative effort see forth as how we see it as a board. So again, thank you, and I yield back, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. I just have two questions. Jennifer Hallman, and I have one for you. I have one for Mark. I'll let you slide. Jennifer, if you could mention, I believe initially in the newspaper it indicated that $25,000 for Empower Douglas was coming out of the general fund, and that was a concern, and a lot of citizens had concerns about that. Can you talk about the new approach, and then I have, Mark will respond to the other section.
Sure. Myself,
Second piece.
the county administrator, you and vice chair got together and discussed what's currently on the agenda. And one of the changes, like you had said, when the budget was adopted back the last meeting in 2019, it was asked for the $25,000 to come out of contingency in order to pay Empower Douglas. And then what was discussed when we format was, instead of that money coming out of contingency, let's put that money back in contingency in the general fund, and let's let that $25,000 come out of the hotel motel tax fund of the excess, the $399,000.
Okay. And the next question for you, Mark, if you could just share with the board or enlighten the board about the email that we received from Dr. Watkins, just to give them an update in case we have some of our email, Board of Commissioners that have not read the email. Mark? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Hold on, I had to look it up real quick. So essentially, Dr. Watkins had sent the board an email pretty much stating that, among other things, but the last paragraph says that he essentially resigns from all responsibilities or roles from Empower Douglas County Foundation Incorporated as of today, which this was January 17th. And he said he would not make any presentations or attend any meetings on the matter. And he also said he would request that the state of Georgia's corporation division remove his name as its registered agent. Then he said, it continued with, I will continue to serve our county in other ways. God bless Douglas County and God bless America.
Okay. Thank you so much. And this information went as well to our newspapers. That's why I know it may be in the newspaper. So I just wanted Mark. It went to both Ron Daniels, he was on email, and Crystal Horn. So I just wanted to make sure that information was, publicized, number one, because it may hit the newspaper at any moment. So thank you so much, and we appreciate y'all. Thank you. Vice Chairman Robinson.
Yeah, I think when you have citizens, I want to speak to the spirit and the core of this county, that we all coexist. You have dual sun systems up there in the sky. And when you have our neighbors who care, and who want to contribute, who love the county like the next person, and for our behavior to degenerate to what it did, none of us are on the Enoch Elijah Express out of here. None of us. None I've met yet. Right? And there's a way to do things, and there's a way not. That in light of where we are, in light of Martin Luther King's birthday yesterday, and I was in Washington recently last year, and I got a chance to stand there by myself about midnight. We were up there with the chamber, and a colleague of mine scooped me up and took me over there. I was by myself, not afraid. Washington, watching this thing, beholding it across the river, across the way from the Thomas Jefferson. So you got these two dreams, the American dream and I have a dream. And I had a reflection today as I sat here. I mean, coming in, it's like, okay, come on, right? One day. And so for here we are, to be 40 years later, and to treat our neighbors. Now, I understand if we were a foreign state, maybe you take a position of, it was brutal. It was wrong. It's evil. It was demonstrated in a way that not neighbors. Never. Like, no, we're neighbors. Everybody got the same HOA issues. All of those things. And I just, for the sake that, that we would attack someone on that level to make them want to recede. And while some people may say, well, good, but no. You don't normalize that type of behavior, right? I defend anybody. I don't care what position you are. That was wrong on so many levels. So this is what I call a righteous indignation. Never again should we experience that. For any citizen, no matter what party, color, whatever. That demonstration was unacceptable on any level for Douglas County. And you guys know that. You know that. There's nothing right about that. We're trying to move it forward. Everybody wants to contribute. The house on fire, let's get in there and help. What is this spirit? Rebuke it. I appreciate the pastor being here. Hopefully this year we'll have a bunch more pastors that weighs in on this. But you hear spiritual wickedness in high places, that's political wickedness in high places. I'm just speaking in general. I asked it to Madam Chair's request out the gate. Let's do better. Let's not treat each other like we don't know each other, that we're neighbors. I asked for that. I pray for that. And Madam Chair, I yield the floor back to you to move forward.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson. We're going to move on to tab number 5, authorization to rescind the memorandum of understanding with the Douglas County Economic Development Authority and the collaborative approved on December 3rd, 2019. Mark Teal, our county administrator, will you chime in?
Yes, ma'am. Well, previously, the Board of Commissioners had approved similar-ish MOU that we had just discussed with the Douglas County Travel and Tourism. But it was approved between Douglas County, the Douglas County Economic Development Authority, and the collaborative firm. So essentially, this agenda item is a request to rescind this MOU.
Okay. Any questions from the Board of Commissioners or comments?
Yes, ma'am. Point of order, Madam Chair.
Okay.
You want to? Are we voting or are we just working session?
This is working. We're still
All right,
working.
all right. So let me ask my
good?
question.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, no. So again, are these reversed? I mean,
Yeah.
are we?
It seems like it's reversed.
Yeah, they seem like they're reversed.
Should have
but
been the other way.
I mean,
We can put them in either
We'll
order.
change it when I,
they're related, but I'll yield to my colleague, all of y'all, to weigh in. We were on the same page. This seems like this is backwards. I didn't have an intent one way or another, but please weigh in if you guys have a different perspective in the order these two should be resolved. I yield. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
It was point of order.
Okay, Commissioner Mitchell,
And I
you
guess
have
I'm
the
not,
floor.
okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'm not clear, and I too may have been a little bit confused. And I guess that would be a question for you, Mark, or Madam Chair. Was it signed? Are we rescinding something that was not signed or not? I'm a little confused. Was that signed?
So it definitely was not signed by the Economic Development Authority or the collaborative firm.
Is this the one that we passed supposedly that we authorized Madam Chair to sign? Is this not that one that was signed or not signed?
Well, at some point,
it was not.
none were signed. I mean, nobody signed it. I can tell you the Economic Development Authority nor the collaborative firm signed it because it never went to them. We always sign them first.
So we didn't sign our part first to even try to go there. So how are we going to rescind something that we never signed?
Unless it was signed today.
Or was it? I guess that'd be a question for, I guess you, Madam Chair. I don't know. So I'll leave it there. I'll yield back.
Okay. You waiting on my response? On the signature, I have the copy, but when I met with the Development Authority, so you'll know, because I'm on the Development Authority, I'm one of the members as well, they did not sign it at the time when I was there. So they did not sign either. So,
But I think it has to come from us first, though, correct? Legal. It comes from us first, correct?
Normally, that's the case. We sign it, then we send it to the other parties.
So that means, are we signing it and then rescinding it, or are we?
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that way. but
Right.
That's normally the way.
Well, let me state what's going on here.
Okay.
The approval starts the process of a contract that's binding whenever it's actually signed. There is no contract that's binding until all the parties sign. So as we sit here today, as I understand it, I'm not over here every day, the memorandum has not been signed.
Okay.
And so to approve 4,
Right.
you'd have to rescind 5 because the money in 5 is tied up in 4 that you just discussed. So there, as far as I'm concerned, the two go hand in hand. But what you wouldn't want to do is approve 4 and not approve the rescinding of 5 because it's the same money. But there is no binding contract as we sit here today unless it was signed by all parties. I understand it hadn't been signed.
Madam Chair.
I'm letting Commissioner Mitchell still has the floor.
I yield.
Okay. Commissioner Guider.
Well, it's my understanding to have a contract, you have to have a scope of work. And there was never any scope of work submitted.
Well, we can debate that, but there is no contract as
What are
we sit here today.
What are you
Really-
approving?
Yeah, really what you're doing is rescinding.
$50,000 for?
I'm sorry.
What
I don't
would
have
you-
anything to do with that. I can answer the question that was asked only.
I don't understand how she could sign it because there was never any scope of work submitted for the $50,000. But I yield back.
Okay.
Madam Chair, let me point out one thing if
Okay.
I can. You're really rescinding the approval of the MOU since there is no contract as we sit here today.
Yeah, it says approval,
The
not
wording of the
signature.
agenda item is a little misleading, but the truth of the matter is you're rescinding this board's prior approval of that MOU. Now, had it been signed by everybody to rescind it, all parties, unless the contract provided otherwise, would have to agree to rescind it. I understand we don't have a binding contract right now because nobody signed it.
Right. So the wording is approval.
Well, we'll make a note and we'll change the wording to, and Ken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, so it'd be authorization to rescind the approval of the memorandum of understanding with the Douglas County Economic Development Authority and the collaborative firm approved on December 3rd, 2019.
That's technically correct, and Madam Chair, if it matters for order, it would make sense to take up 5 before 4 for purposes of the same money, not getting caught up in 2 different votes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. All right. Board, okay. Vice Chairman.
Yeah, let's be clear on what the intent was for that $400,000, which again was an excess that could not be handled by our existing staff. We brought in expertise. We said up to $50,000 was what was put on the table, up to, which gave room to be able to hire somebody as an expert to come in and bring some type of subject matter expert for the collaborative. My understanding, and y'all need to be very clear on how y'all answer this, staff, which is, my understanding is that there was a submission of work regarding the $400,000 and how it would be done. Right now, I want to be I want y'all to be real careful claiming plausible deniability, right? Because this ain't blank. There was conversations, especially over the holiday, with the county administrator, county attorney, and executive director of economic development. Now, to all of a sudden claim that there was no scope and we don't know what this, no, that $50,000 was associated with the bringing the people you needed, just like you were giving money to economic development or chamber for facilitating the 400. You're leaving the history off, right? That's the same type of, right. So they're not doing it for free, right? You weren't asking the chamber to do it for free, right? So why are we saying that there was no plan from the collaborative? There was a plan. It was for the 400. Now, if you want to claim, well, it went to the development authority, it really didn't reach us, well, surely you would have saw it because you're trying to get Madam Chair to sign off on a 3-part agreement. Don't say like it was nothing there. That means we just gonna move 400 over to, like, no, that was never true. Now, I've made my point that when we're trying to innuendo what was there. I'll go off record, right? It was no reason to try to do that. We're trying to get through this now, but we're not going to leave this hanging that there was not thought that was put into that $400,000. It was not an unacknowledgement, the fact that that gentleman stood here and said, well, no, I'm not going to do it for free. I'll do whatever I can do to serve you. We said up to $50,000, which gave you admin space to be able to go hire no more than our current person that runs tourism. About the same, right? So that's like, let's not marginalize and try to invalidate that we don't know what this was about. It was a real plan. One more time, corrective action. You're marginalizing that. The state said you're non-compliant. You're acting new. Like, guys, our decision was actually done. I'm going to leave it at that, but I had to clarify that. I'd rather move forward, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, we're going to move on to tab number 6. Tab number 6 is authorization to accept an accountability courts grant from the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council in the amount of $5,000 with no matching funds, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Major Holmes, how you doing today?
Good evening, Madam Chair and fellow commissioners. This is a $5,000 grant that we're asking for, and what it's going to be used for in the accountability courts is for our deputies to help pay them overtime for for transports and surveillance that they're going to be doing with the courts. It's a 6-month grant. It's not a lot of money. It's not a long time, but hopefully it's our foot in the door to be able to get something in the future is what we're hoping.
Okay, pretty straightforward. Board, any questions or comments? All right, thank you. Okay, next we have tab number 7, authorization to apply for the 2020 CDBG grant from the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Tiffany Stewart Stanley, sorry.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Board of Commissioners.
Hello.
We're asking for authorization to apply for the 2020 CDBG.
Who is we?
Grant, myself and Dr. Gilchrist.
Okay, thank you.
In order for renovations for the Douglas County Senior Center. The grant will allow an award of $750,000 to help with public facilities. However, there is a 5% match of $37,000. One of the things that we have to do is have a public hearing, and that hearing will be on February 6th.
Okay. Any questions from the board regarding this grant proposal? Commissioner Carthen.
Yes.
You have the floor.
So the $750,000 grant that we're going after, that will be able to be used towards anything regarding the senior center?
Just improving functionality. That's the only reason why they will approve the grant. Myself and Dr. Gilchrist, we did meet with some members from the DCA, and that's the only way they will award a grant is if you can show you're improving the function of the building.
So I volunteer there every week, so I know. This is just for the public. I really want the public to understand this. So since we are asking for this grant, it's really to help improve the building and the functionality where we serve our seniors.
Yes, that's correct.
I'm not sure how old the building is that the senior services is out of. I would assume it's probably older than me. So if I'm 48, that building is probably about 60, 70 years old.
She said 80 or 90 years old.
80 or 90, twice my age. So the fact that we are serving our seniors out of there, the fact that I as a volunteer and many volunteers work out of there, lets you know that we really do need the improvement. So I hope that you write an outstanding grant so that we will be able to receive those funds. And I hope that my colleagues, once we receive it, would be eager to give the match.
And this is a very competitive grant, so we will do our best to get it for Douglas County.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners just wanted to enlighten you that Director Stanley and also Director Gilchrist had an opportunity to go to Callaway Garden to talk about this grant with the Community Affairs, should I say Department of Community Affairs, and see what we had to do to be competitive and compete. I've had an opportunity it's the senior center for the public. It's the senior center located on Fairburn Road where we have our Meals on Wheels. And as Commissioner Carthen just stated, it is an opportunity for some renovation. We've put some lipstick on it right now, changed the blinds out and done some other things, a new pool table within the center, but it's still a lot more to be done. So I'm real excited. That was one of the charges that I charged Dr. Gilchrist and also Director Stanley with, seeing what we could do to compete and get a grant to really make this place look good. We want to transform it. So thank you all so much, and we hope that everything goes well. We're going to move on to the next item. Is tab number 8, authorization to approve a yearly contract with the Judicial Alternative of Georgia Incorporation, JAG, for the misdemeanor probation services for the state court, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Judge Barker. Oh, good evening.
This is just the continuation from where we had the proposal from JAG, the renewal of their annual contract to provide misdemeanor services for the state court.
Okay. Judge, any questions for the judge or comments? You, Vice Chairman?
Yeah, I was waiting.
No, yeah, it's for you, nobody else.
All right, yeah, sure. This is for, again, good evening, Judge. I'll be quick. All right, we're not holding you up from court, are we?
Nope, not this time. Don't have night court.
I got it. All right, real quick, I'll be brief. All right, so this is the JAG, right?
Yes.
How long has this been in place? I mean,
With JAG?
Yeah.
I think 3 years, 2 to 3 years.
2 or 3 years. Okay. And are we all comfortable? We talked about this before. I just want to continue the conversation, just for the record. Are we satisfied?
Absolutely.
Okay. And we again, to the public, we've had conversation Madam Chair's administration. We had an experience. Do you mind sharing what happened back then, please?
With the prior company?
Yeah.
We just didn't get very good service from the prior company, and they ultimately went out of business because of that.
And again, so one of the things we learned as a group, this is a collective, this is not one side versus the other. This was we learned an experience. You know, we as Board of Commissioners tend to stay in our lane in certain areas. When it comes to public safety and judicial, like we've learned, at least I've learned early on in my legislative action, like, nah, you stay in my lane, right? But what we do have influence is on fiscal policy. That's where we can have a conversation. And so that's the only thing that we're responsible for, but we understand the sovereignty of those guys, and we respect that. That being said, when they came to us with the prior Sentinel, and they were dissatisfied, obviously, with service, we began to ask questions. It's like, well, what do they get out of the money they're getting? That the citizens who are on probation has got to pay. Is there anything helping, or are they just collecting coupons? Again, follow the money. Well, somewhere along the way, the state passed a new law that said if you're indigent, you don't have to really pay that fine or fee, or you don't get thrown back in jail. Again, don't correct me, I'm not trying to be wrong. But somewhere along the way, it was asked for the Board of Commissioners to help these guys do a contract in which the Board of Commissioners agreed to subsidize a private company as they went through this process for us to get to the other side. Now think about it, we're putting up money for a private company to survive. I want to point out to President and the importance of history. My dad always taught me there's something about longevity. You've been around long enough to know stuff. So we're putting up money for a private company to maintain their to help them avoid insolvency. Okay, fine. It was board made a decision, regardless of anybody's position. The board made a position. We granted that to get through that, and of course, on the other side of that, we let it drop. The judge and them came forward, and they came with another service provider. Now, that prior service provider, it was all over the state. They didn't really do good. So it wasn't just for us. It was all over. We were just trying to get through the moment. So there's times in which we work with our judicial and our public safety to get through moments. And I just wanted to acknowledge that we actually think about it. I mean, this wasn't just a small contract. We put real cash. Real quick, Director Hallman, how much money did we put into them? Director Hallman, do you remember?
If I remember correctly, it was 120-something thousand.
120,000.
But I don't remember exactly.
Monthly or annually?
I think that was just a one-time fee, and it was ended up, the next year was divided up monthly.
All right, which means me full circle, and I think you answered it, but I wanted to make sure, is everybody talking and they're satisfied with what the services that were, that's being rendered?
We are, and I would point out that on this contract with JAG, this board doesn't provide any subsidy to them. They survive on their own merit.
Okay.
So you're not providing any additional money under these contracts that we have with JAG.
I just want to bridge the gap of the members
sir.
that are here. Thank you, sir. Madam Chair,
Okay, thank you so much. Commissioner Carthen, you have the floor.
I see the Solicitor General in the back. Would you like to come forward, Solicitor Compton?
While Solicitor's coming up, Madam Chair, so I checked back on we had, I believe it was $14,800 per month
Okay.
that we,
800.
that state court provided to the probation.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I've had a chance to review the contract, and I've spoken with the co-owner of JAG Probation, Tim Donovan. He and Madam Chair and I had a conversation last week, a meeting, And one of the things I was concerned about was not getting certain records that we need. And in order to, our position as the solicitor's office, to increase offender accountability and promote the safety of our county, we like to have that information. Spoke with Mr. Donovan, and he had no objection to it. I think last week I provided a copy of just a modification of the contract. I gave a copy to Madam Chair and also to Commissioner Guider, and left a copy for everyone else. And I also spoke with Judge Fortner. And if you look on Section 7B of the proposed contract, reports to the court and keeping of records, the only thing that I ask is where it says JAG shall provide written monthly reports to the state court and the board, is that you also add the Douglas County Solicitor General.
And Madam Chair, I should note, we have those requested changes, and I understand from Judge Barker, they support them, so we have them here.
Okay.
And we're fine with those changes.
Thank you. That was all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. I yield the floor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Judge, sounds good. Thank you. We're going to move on to tab number 9, authorization to approve juvenile court attorney contracts for Robert Kuntz, Amy Hayes, and Chelsea Mitchell to replace attorneys who are no longer contract attorneys in juvenile court, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Judge Harrison, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thank you. We're just asking to, we had 3 of our contract lawyers move on to other things, and we've extended an opportunity to these 3 individuals to come under those contracts. We're just asking that you approve those.
Okay, any questions from the board? Pretty self-explanatory. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming in. All right, tab number 10, authorization to approve the First Amendment to this SFY 2020 Aging Services Contract with the Atlanta Regional Commission, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Dr. Gilchrist, how you doing today?
I'm well, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Board of Commissioners. Yes, this is just an authorization to approve the First Amendment to our contract with the ARC, and it's actually an increase of $6,093.35.
Okay, any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Okay, sounds good, self-explanatory. Thank you, Director of Senior Services. All right, tab number 11, preliminary plat approval for Brook Ridge Estates at the Villages at Brookmont. Mr. Schaefer, Phil Schaefer.
Madam Chair,
How you
Commissioners,
doing?
I have actually 2 preliminary plats this evening that can be approved. They've gone through the iterations at the Development Review Committee level and are recommended for approval. One is the Brookmont, and what we've got here in Brookmont is 56 lots in the townhouse section of the development, and then on the Brookridge Estates Phase 3, we have 32 lots. This will be the final phase for that particular project. As it's building out, the final cul-de-sac is the final cul-de-sac on this one. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, any questions from the board? Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. And to the citizens of Brookmont, obviously this has been a long time coming. We obviously had to get through the economy. When I first came into office, I lived in Brookmont, so I understand the area quite well. So citizens, have you had any feedback from any of the citizens? Are you okay, Bill?
I have not had any feedback at all on this particular phase.
All right, so they're
For
aware.
or against, yeah.
Right. So then, usually if it's in my backyard and they don't like it, they'll come out.
They'll come out.
And definitely that group.
And this,
So-
and just so you know,
Yeah.
this is that phase that was originally envisioned to be the townhouse portion.
Right.
There was that other piece that went on last year and the year before that was a little out of sequence, that was
Yes.
not ours, that was a city limit.
City. That's correct. So this is proper.
Correct.
County proper, unincorporated part of the Brookmont, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, so we're about to finish it on out and be built out. Thank you. I yield, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Good stuff.
All right, we're going to move, thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. Tab number 12, authorization to approve a car allowance agreement for Ross Clark, the fleet manager. County Administrator Mark Teal.
Yes, ma'am. Ross Clark had a take-home vehicle, county vehicle. He is over our fleet services. He's on call 24/7, but he is moving more than 50 miles from the courthouse. Our current vehicle policy only allows up to 50 miles for
take-home vehicles. So we're requesting take-home pay in lieu of the take-home vehicle. And he'll still be on call 24/7.
Any questions from the board or comments? Sounds like it's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item. Tab number 13, authorization to rescind the employment contract with Lanice Harrington from 2020.
Madam Chair,
2020. That's
yeah,
legal.
I can deal with that one if you'd like. This is really not the rescission of an employment contract because it was never executed. It was held after your approvals in December, at your last meeting in December. Ms. Harrington, I believe that's a female, Lanice Harrington, submitted her resignation letter, and she only worked, I think, maybe a week into January. That's been handled. So the contract was never released to her to sign. So you're really rescinding the approval of that contract, and it's been replaced, as you heard earlier, with some of the people in item number 9. That's one of the replacements.
Okay. Any questions from the board? All right, I'll move on to tab number 14, authorization to accept a reimbursement check in the amount of $22,145 from the Anthem BCBS GA Health and Wellness, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents and amend the budget. Director Perry.
Yes, Madam Chair, good evening, Board of Commissioners. This is just a good benefit that Anthem, formerly Blue Cross Blue Shield, affords for the county. Any and all monies that we spend health and wellness related, they will reimburse us. So we kind of had a flurry of activities at the end of 2019, and we were able to get all those receipts in, and we are in possession of that check, and we just want to receive that and apply it appropriately.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay.
Thank you.
Pretty self-explanatory. Thank you so much. Next is tab number 15, resolution setting qualifying fees for the 2020 county elections. Director Kidd, how are you doing today?
All right, board. Yes, this is just a resolution to set the qualifying fees for the 2020 municipal election of May the 19th.
March 19th?
May.
Oh,
No, the March election is the PPP. The May election is for the general primary. This is for our general primaries.
Oh, okay. All right, any questions from the board?
Sure.
Yeah. Vice Chairman Robinson.
Sure, why not? Greetings, Director. How are you?
All right, and you?
Good. Just for the record, what is the qualifying fees, just for the public who don't?
Okay. The qualifying fees will be published on the county's website, but they read as follow. For a chair, $27,069.17. For district commissioner.
Wait.
I'm sorry. $2,769.17. 2,000, yeah. For district commissioner, $671.31. For sheriff, $2,424.59.
Yep.
For clerk of Superior Court, $2,173.02. For tax commissioner, $2,173.02. For probate judge, $2,173.02. For coroner, $1,003.33. For state court judge, $5,034.69. We also have a school board for Douglas County School Board of $600.19.86.
All right. I just want to do that for the record. I know we have to approve it, Madam Chair, but just for education. I yield.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
What are the salary comparisons? These are typically 3% of the starting salaries for these positions.
Okay, what are the qualifying dates? Is it March?
The qualifying dates will be March the 2nd through the 6th. These offices are party specific, so you will qualify with your specific party, which have different qualifying times within that March 2nd through March 6th date.
And then you said something about May.
The actual primary date is May 24th.
Okay.
Madam Chair, could I just point out one thing in the resolution, in the second whereas clause, some of the offices are omitted that are in the list. That whereas clause will be expanded to include the complete list that's been read by Mr. Melton today.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Director Kidd.
Thank you.
All right, we have tab number Well, we already discussed tab number 16 and 17. Do we need to go over those again, Board of Commissioners? No. Okay. So also the approval of the minutes, if you just could review those, and then we'll just,
Minute or expense?
I'm sorry, expenses, approval of expenses. If we go into those, if you look at them, and if you look, agree, if you see a problem, we can talk about it. If not, we'll move into our Board of Commissioners meeting. And what I will do, just to keep this meeting moving along effectively, we'll start again with tab number, I'm going to move to tab number 5. I reversed 4 and 5, so I'll start with 5 first and then move to 4, and then just work our way down.
So, Madam Chair, point of order?
Yes.
Are we closing the working session, now moving into the actual vote?
And I'll just proceed as I always do with our work sessions. Attorney Bernard, do we need to go into executive session? I just want to make sure I do.
Not tonight, Madam Chair.
Okay, Board of
I
Commissioners.
do want to address item 5 and 4 again whenever you come to them.
Okay. Okay, we do not need to go into executive sessions. Board of Commissioners, with that being said, the work session is closed and we're moving right into our Board of Commissioners meeting. So this meeting is now open, and we'll start with tab number 5, authorization to rescind the memorandum of understanding with the Douglas County Economic Development Authority and the collaborative, approval that was approved on December 3rd, 2019. Mark, did I?
Yeah, and that would, what we had discussed before, authorization to rescind approval of the memorandum of understanding
the
with the Douglas
approval.
County Economic Development Authority and the collaborative firm, approved on December 3rd, 2019.
Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second, and we will be voting electronically tonight. Please prepare to cast your votes. Can you get it?
There's something happening.
Lisa?
Need a little help.
She's coming, Jennifer. I think that's 17.
Get quick.
We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. So we're going to move on to tab number 4. Thank you, Vice Chairman. My brain is flipping. Authorization to approve a memorandum of understanding with Douglas County Travel and Tourism Incorporation and the collaborative firm LLC, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Do we have a motion to approve, Board of Commissioners?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any legal counsel, you said you wanted to.
I just
chime
wanted
in.
to, just really quick address to make sure everybody's clear. I pulled the number 5, the actual language. Number 4 is almost identical except for the changes Mark described and including the excess for 1920. But there is a scope of work in here for the collaborative firm, just like there was in 5 that just got rescinded. In fact, it reads virtually identical. I don't know that I need to read it in the record, but I wanted to make sure that question was addressed before the night was up.
Yep.
Okay. So there is a scope of work. Okay.
The scope is defined. It was defined in 5. It's broad, but it's defined, and it's also the same way in 4.
Okay. I just want to reiterate that, Board of Commissioners, there is a scope of work for a collaborative firm. Also, just wanted to also clarify, I had an opportunity to speak with our county administrator and ask questions. Number one, could this $50,000 be utilized out of the tourism account, the 399, which is the TCT, and it is legal, it's allowable, that this is not the first time it's happened. And my second question was, we just actually focusing on that 2015 to 2018 so we can burn down the money that's been sitting there forever and a day that need to be utilized. It's one of those things that we use it or lose it. And I know this county don't want to lose $399 because right now, as our tourism director, and I've had conversations with her, she's okay with it because she want to focus on 2020 and move forward so she can keep moving, because right now she has another bucket of $323,000 that she's got to work on and move forward. If not, we may lose that $399. So I had to wrap my mind around everything before I certainly make decisions the same as our board. So Board of Commissioners.
Can I clarify one thing you
Yes.
said, Madam Chair? Item 4 is focused on 2015 through 2018.
Yes.
But it also includes any excess that is left over from 19 for TCT funds,
19.
and also goes into 2020. I just wanted to make sure that's clarified.
Okay, that's fine. All right, Board of Commissioners, we have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 4-1 vote, and the motion carries. All right, we're going to move on to our next item, which is tab number 6, authorization to accept accountability courts grants from the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council in the amount of $5,000 with no matching funds, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Do we have a motion to approve, Board of Commissioners?
So move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Tab number 7, authorization to apply for the 2020 CDBG grant from the GA Department of Community Affairs, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Tab number 8, authorization to approve a yearly contract with Judicial Alternative of Georgia's Incorporation, JAG, for misdemeanor probation services for state court, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. We'll move on to tab number 9, authorization to approve juvenile court attorney contracts for Robert Kuntz, Amy Hayes, and Chelsea Mitchell to replace attorneys who are no longer contract attorneys in juvenile court, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. Board of Commissioners, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Tab number 10, authorization to approve the First Amendment to the SFY 2020 Aging Services contract with the Atlanta Regional Commission, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please prepare to cast your votes. Board of Commissioners, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Tab number 11, preliminary plat approval for Brook Ridge Estates and the villages at Brookmont. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. Board of Commissioners, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Tab number 12, authorization to approve a car allowance agreement for Ross Clark, our fleet manager. Do we have a motion to approve? Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion?
So move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Car allowance, how much?
How much, Mark?
County Administrator, please.
Mark
It's
Teal?
$280 bi-weekly, so every pay period.
$250,
And that
so you get a
bi-weekly, every 2
$500
weeks.
a month car allowance. Is that in addition to his salary, and is that commensurate with our policy? That's all I'm asking.
Yes, sir. That's
Is it
correct.
consistent? Are you?
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chair. Okay, Commissioner Carthen.
Just out of curiosity, since I'm still learning, do we always give people who move outside the county car allowances?
No, but he had currently had a take-home vehicle. So the issue was he had moved outside the 50-mile radius. So the vehicle use policy only allows a take-home vehicle on a 50, inside a 50-mile radius. He's outside that, so we can't give him a take-home vehicle, but he is, technically needs to be on call 24/7.
Okay. So should we look at amending that policy? Because I know that there are other departments, and I'm thinking about other elected officials who have come before us who are requesting that their employees have take-home cars. Would that be the same?
Well, it depends on, most of the time, take-home vehicles are people who are on call or department heads.
Or department heads?
Yes, ma'am.
So the sheriff's department who will be giving their employees take-home cars, would they fall under this policy?
That would be different from this policy.
That would be different from this
Yes, ma'am.
policy? Okay. I'm just trying to get some clarity.
That would be the sheriff's call, since
That would be the
he's a
sheriff's call.
constitutional officer. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so once we've approved that budget, so he gets to make the call as to how far outside the county those individuals can go.
Yes, ma'am.
But just
That's
for
my
our
understanding.
policy, under the county board of commissioners, it's not over 50 miles.
Yes, ma'am.
Outside.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would like for us to approach that.
Okay.
Approach looking at that.
We can do that.
Yeah.
I'll start on that, too.
Okay. Thank you. I yield, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Board of Commissioners, please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. So we'll move on to tab number 13, authorization to rescind the rescind the approval of the employment contract with Lanice Harrington for 2020. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Board of Commissioners, please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. We're moving on to tab number 14, authorization to accept a reimbursement check in the amount of $22,145,000. Did I say that right? Yeah. Okay. Whew, it's late. From Anthem BCBS, Georgia Health and Wellness, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents and amend the budget. Do we have a motion to approve, Board of Commissioners?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries. Board of Commissioners, we move on to tab number 15, resolution setting qualifying fees for 2020 county elections. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes.
Point of order? Just,
Okay.
yeah.
We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Okay. It's a point of order. You have the floor,
Yeah, just
Commissioner.
as a clarifier of the vote, what if it was defeated? What would have happened? Please.
Come on up, please. Thank you, Director Kidd.
Yes.
You have until February 1st to set those qualifying fees. What if it happens? There is no precedent in place for it happening. I guess at that point, it would be the state election board's predilection to determine how the county should proceed in that matter.
All right, so again, so this is a state mandate that these are being set for us, right, across the board. Is that accurate?
Yes, yes and no. It is being set across the board, but each governing body is given the authority to set the fees. They're given general guidelines.
Okay.
You can defer to council, but I've never heard of an incident where.
No, it wasn't so much just but again, so are these fees being told to us by the state down, or are we arbitrarily setting these fees amongst ourselves? Ken, can you clarify?
Well, almost all these seats, the qualifying fee is set as a percentage of the base salary, excluding COLAs and adjustments and increases.
Yep.
And to answer your first question, Milton would have called me had y'all not approved this, and Milton, through another council, would take y'all to court, and a judge would set the qualifying fees before February 1st. That's what would have happened.
Yeah. We get sued by ourselves. Yeah, okay,
No,
we got it. Thank you.
The Board of Elections actually operates as an independent body, so
That's right.
we do have that capacity to do that.
Walk across the hallway. I got it. Okay. Madam Chair, you.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to move on to tab number 15. The motion carries and it passed. We'll move on to tab number 16, authorization to award a contract to Prime Foundation LLC in the amount of $1,192,650 for construction of concession buildings at Bill Arp and Fair Play Parks to be funded through the 2016 SPLOST funds as recommended by the Parks and Recreation Oversight Committee and for the chairman to sign all related documents. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I just wanted to ask just clarification from the county administrator. This includes not only the concession, but the bathrooms and also the press box, right? As our chairman of the
Yes, that's
Parks
correct.
and Recreation Committee, Commissioner Mitchell. Okay, that's my question. We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. We'll move on to tab number 17, authorization to approve a change order for Carter Watkins Associates Architects Incorporation contract in the amount of $22,864 to cover an overall increase in the Deer Lick Park Tennis Courts project cost to be funded through the 2016 SPLOST fund as recommended by the Parks and Recreation Oversight Committee and for the chairman to sign all related documents. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I guess I'm a second it since it's Deer Lake, but, okay, go ahead. I got a question.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah,
I yield the floor to you, Vice Chairman Robinson.
Yeah, can we get some clarity on what happened here from perhaps either
Director Dukes is here.
Director Dukes
Yeah.
or committee members?
And Commissioner Mitchell is the chairman of the committee.
Greetings.
Good evening.
Yes, when Carter Watkins was brought on board, our original budget was $500,000. But when the project went out for bid, it came in at $887,000. So thus the adjustment of the $337,000 at the 6%. Plus, they were also asked to do additional work. They had some work that was requested by the Health Department and by WSA.
All right, so there's some mandatory requirements. So health, infrastructure. Okay, I would just make sure it wasn't scope creep. It was the right thing to do. Is that, I'm just, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, I appreciate it. Again, I do appreciate the committee's commitment to making sure that Deer Lick is revitalized. Obviously, it's one of our older parks as well. As a priority in times past, we decided to build a $5 million animal shelter right there on the park. But again, everybody doesn't use that, right? And it was important that we also extend that same type of revitalization across the entire park. And so again, Commissioner Mitchell, thank you. Director Dukes, you know where this extends from, to maintain the word of leadership, which is that do not allow that utility to become the Taj Mahal of that very, very important park on the east side. So I appreciate y'all fulfilling it. I yield.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. And so, thank you so much, Board of Commissioners. We're going to move on to the approval of our expenses, which are tab number 18, 19, and 20. 21. I think, Clerk, we missed it. It's 18, 19, and 20. Correct? Okay. I know it's late, but I'm thinking 19, 21. Okay. So we're tab 18, 19, and 20. So hopefully you had an opportunity to look at these expenses. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve our expenses?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about these expenses? We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to cast your votes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Board of Commissioners, now we are moving on to our announcements. We will have our announcements read by our own Communications Director, Mr. Rick Martin.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board of Commissioners, staff, citizens. You just heard moments ago from Director Milton Kidd from the Board of Elections. One thing that on his behalf we're sharing is that the Board of Elections and Registration Department is holding a demonstration for the general public on the new voting equipment. This is happening on January 23rd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. right here in Citizens Hall. The public is invited. For any further questions, you're invited to call Pamela Daly, 770-920-7213. Georgia State Representative William Bodie will be hosting the second annual Small Business Summit Saturday, January 25th, from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. at the Douglasville Conference Center. The public is invited to come out on that day. If you own a business and need more capital to grow, or if you're thinking about starting a new business, it's a good place to be in case you need capital or are interested in having so. I don't know, Chairman Jones, if... Sure. Vice Chairman Robinson and Commissioner Carthen of District 3 will be hosting How to Do Business in Douglas County. And this is happening on January 30th at 6:30 p.m. at the Douglasville Conference Center. For more information, please contact Director of External Affairs, Tiffany Stewart-Stanley. And last but not least, Commissioner Mitchell, do I get the blessing there?
You doing such a wonderful job. Go right ahead.
He said, go right ahead.
On behalf of Commissioner Mitchell, the public is invited to Commissioner Mitchell of District 1, his Coffee and Conversation. It's a fabulous event where the public is open to attend. This is happening on Saturday, February 1st, from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. The conversation will be taking place at Tiffany's Kitchen, 7413 Lee Road in Lithia Springs. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact Commissioner Mitchell. Number is 770-920-7266. And I want to remind the public that all of these announcements, in case you missed or didn't get a chance to write them down, they will be on Douglas County Happenings, on our Happenings email newsletter. And if you don't subscribe already, you're welcome to by visiting Celebrate Douglas County. Thank you. I yield to you, Chairman Jones.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other announcements from our Board of Commissioners?
just one
Anything
before we
of- Vice Chairman Robinson, I yield the floor to you.
Yes, Madam Chair. I just want to, I'm a big fan of the Georgian game, but I've got to get, my winner this weekend was Commissioner Henry Mitchell III. He had a community service event this weekend, celebrity basketball game. And if you've never seen Commissioner Mitchell in action, you know, he runs 5 syndicated radio shows, but watch him handle that floor. I mean, it was a production. He had a lot of, obviously high-level media there, celebrities, but he engaged the community. He hit the seniors, they hit the youth. I mean, just to sit back and watch it go, it was first rate. I mean, on time, he ran it. And so for that, I have to give you a shout out. Well done, Commissioner. You and your team, well done.
It was excellent.
It was excellent.
Okay, anything else to come before this body? If there's nothing else to come before this body, this meeting is adjourned.